right, what's up, my G's? Welcome again to another episode of G'd Up and Agreed Up University.
Yo, yo.
Yo, we have Briana Savage, future Dr. Savage, back in the house, if you remember her from episode 13. And then we have a very special guest, the Chase Griffin, quarterback of UCLA football.
Bruins.
Go Bruins.
There we go. Repping today.
Yeah, we all repping UCLA, so.
Sorry, product stuff, yeah.
So let's start it off. So it's spring 2023. It's graduation season. Everybody is wondering what they can do after they get their degree. And so we're going to debunk a lot of the mystery behind that and break down some of the issues and barriers that you might be experiencing, some of the questions you might have. And so we're going to especially try to relate to student athletes too, either if you're in high school, going into college, and if you're in college about to go into the workforce, or deciding between going pro or going into the real world. And so let's go ahead and start off. Well, let's first talk about how both of you met, and then we could go ahead and have Chase introduce himself. So if you want to go and talk about your mentorship relationship with Chase, Bree.
Yeah, so I worked at UCLA for about 7 months, and while I was there, I was a mentor to Chase. He was on my caseload, and he was a very bright student who came in with a lot of ideas, so it was awesome working with him. And then we've kind of kept in contact as I went to UCR, and he's advanced through UCLA, getting his bachelor's and now his master's.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait, so let me get this straight. You're getting your master's right now, and you're getting another master's in legal studies.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to talk about that because that's dope, right? That's what you're doing. All right, so let us know, tell us a little about yourself. So based on what I've read, you're from Texas.
Yeah.
And then you had to make that transition from Texas to the West Coast, to California. Mm-hmm. But you're also a Gatorade Texas Player of the Year. Right. So congratulations on that.
Right.
But I'm going to let you talk about yourself. So let's kind of go break down your experiences just transitioning from Texas to California and how it was trying to decide between different D1 schools to play for and attend.
Right.
Well, wait. Before we do, I do want to let's go back. How did you get into football? What was your support system? What was your passion going in? I think that would be kind of important, especially the adversities you had to overcome.
Definitely.
That would probably be really good for a lot of people to hear.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
Yeah. So I mean, I was born in LA. At UCLA Santa Monica, right down Wilshire.
Hey.
And,
okay.
I moved to Texas when I was around 4. My parents wanted me growing up somewhere a little bit more slow paced.
Makes sense.
Somewhere, we had a bigger house, big lawn, all that. And it was really a great place to grow up, about 30 miles northeast of Austin. Really everyone who grows up in that area, in Texas in general, grows up to play football in high school. But my first sport was soccer. And I grew up playing the violin and playing soccer. That's how I learned how to train. That's how I learned how to compete. And I looked up to players like Eto'o, like Messi, like Ronaldo, and they really showed how you compete and are excellent amongst great competition. And so I was training with that in mind in soccer. And I remember after my soccer games on Saturday, on Sundays, I would watch the NFL. And I just fell in love with football. Really the violence of it, the speed of it. And I asked my father, can I play running back? Because my favorite player was LaDainian Tomlinson.
There we go.
And,
Chargers, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And they were like, no tackle. I was only about 6 or 7 at the time. No tackle. So I played flag for about 3 years. And then in 5th grade, when I turned 10, I played quarterback for that first year, and we had a really good season. I played well, and I fell in love with quarterback position. And really, the rest is history. Went on throughout middle school. I was blessed with a lot of good opportunities to be around high-level training. That's one thing that my parents really instilled in me, the importance of expertise. And so I grew up with a really good quarterback trainer in Jeff Blake, who taught me how to throw. I grew up with another quarterback trainer, George Whitfield, who opened a lot of doors for me, and I consider him to this day a huge blessing and someone who I think God provided in my life for a lot of the success I've had. And then I went on to high school. I was always, I mean, even now, I'm not tall for a quarterback by any means, but I've always been a baller. And so after my sophomore year, I had over 3,000 yards, which in the state of Texas, it means you're a really good passer. And I went to all the camp circuits, and I was killing it. And I just had no offers. And then the summer before my junior year, I got my first offer through Coach Mike McDaniel, who's the head coach at the Dolphins. He saw me at a camp, and he asked me where I have offers. He was surprised when I said, man, I don't have any offers. And so he called up the head coach of Yale that day, and they offered me. And from there, I got a lot more of the Ivy Leagues to offer, eventually North Texas and some other schools. And then once I committed to UCLA, which was a huge blessing, you know, coming back home to where I was born, that's when, you know, other schools started showing a lot of interest. In all honesty, I think I couldn't have picked a better place to go. UCLA was a place and is a place that has produced so many people that I've admired, you know, people who are athletes, but more importantly, they've changed the world. And so folks like Ralph Bunch, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Jackie Robinson, Arthur Ashe, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the list is really endless. And when you look at black excellence, to this day, I mean, you see the gymnastics floor routine. The Black Girl Magic is trending every single year because of somebody at UCLA.
For sure.
To be able to come out of high school with you know, the pride that I feel about being black and how I was raised, and to go to a place that celebrates that and helps mold folks in that to change the world and make the world a better place for everyone, it felt like a no-brainer.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead. I thought you were about to
let's not forget to mention that list of black excellence, Chase Griffin. So you are on that list already, and so let's make sure that's clear. You're you know, probably going to be a UCLA Hall of Fame athlete, you know, in the near future. But speaking of that, you were talking about the other schools. I'm glad you ended up at UCLA. Let's not forget, UCLA is #1, I believe, for 6 years in a row. And then football, top 25. You can't get better than that. You got your academics, and you also have your athletics all in one package right there. And so, so when I was talking to Bree outside, she mentioned that you had a lot of people who supported you growing up, and you mentioned some of them. And so maybe we could even transition to having Bree as one of those support people. So maybe go through some of the importance of having her mentorship in your life throughout your undergraduate career, and then maybe Bree could also tackle in on that as well. No pun intended.
Well, I mean, when I got to UCLA, I think they sort of saw that I had all my ducks in a row. I was handling business. I'm the son of a teacher. So as far as schoolwork, I get it done almost immediately. So I actually, over my entire career at UCLA, I only had two mentors. Bree's one of them, and I only had mentorship for about 6 months, when most, you know, have it around 2-3 years. But I think with Bree, it was good just to have weekly reminders and checkups, especially that freshman year. It's really easy to come in, especially if you don't have habits, and see all this free time you have and think it's really free. But, you know, there's people who really mess up extremely good opportunities because they don't have the habits or they don't have the vision at 18 that they might have at 20, that they might have at 22. And I think the cool part about that Morgan mentorship was it felt peer-to-peer. You know, Bree is just now finishing her tenure as a student. And then I think even more so, she could relate to a lot of the struggles, a lot of just the daily obstacles that someone as a freshman, someone as a sophomore has to go through. And then when you throw in being yelled at by a coach or doing 50 or 60-hour weeks at the facility on top of the school, nowadays on top of whatever opportunities outside that NIL enables, it's important to have someone that can keep you straight, and I appreciated Bree's time and expertise on that.
Big up, Bree.
Yeah, big up, Bree. Yeah, thank you.
Did you experience microaggressions? I mean, being an athlete, and you know, you probably like how generally people are stereotyping, particularly at schools like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think really everywhere there's microaggressions. I think often there's times where microaggressions are where it's self-internalized.
Yeah.
And, there'll be times where people in general, both white people and black people, are surprised to hear that I'm a quarterback just because of my height. And then also, obviously my race. And then furthermore, they always assume that I'm a runner or someone who relies on their speed. And
Like a Michael Vick type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I can run, but that's never really been my play style. I say I'm closer to Drew Brees than anything.
Right. Yeah.
I deal from the pocket. And so I think certain misconceptions in sports that do have links to what people try to put boxes around athletes or archetypes around athletes often, is something where they try to tell your narrative for you. And I think a cool part about NIL is that for the first time, athletes are able to tell their narrative, realize their value, their intrinsic value, and be able to profit off of that while they're still in college, which is a huge educational opportunity that I think adds to the cumulative nature of going to college.
For sure. So, Bree, how did you get into the mentoring? I know you kind of started with the counseling, but what was your passion behind it? How did it end up being this long-term relationship? Not in that way, but
my mind wasn't even going that way. You brought it up.
Just this friendship, I should say, that you all are still carrying now.
Yeah, I think it kind of happened organically. So originally I wanted to go to law school. I didn't find myself in law school because I wasn't necessarily passionate about it. And I started a master's at USC after I graduated from UCLA for undergrad. And that led me to an internship at UCLA where I worked with athletes. And I eventually realized you could do research in college athletics.
Yeah,
there we go.
So I eventually linked with my current advisor, Dr. Eddie Como, who's at UC Riverside, who also specializes in college athletics research.
Yep.
And I've kind of found a way to merge my love for sport, working with students, specifically athletes in this case, and then also academics. So it's been nice. I've worked on projects involving postgraduate career transitions, and I think that seeing the research that I've done along with the work experience that I had kind of come together has been really nice. So.
Good. So one of the things that I think about now, bouncing back to Chase, is do you feel a lot of pressure, particularly to go pro? What was that transition like? What was your decision-making process, things like that?
I think when I was choosing UCLA, I wanted to choose a place where I believed I could go pro. And, to this day, I still believe that's always an opportunity that's on the table. I still have 2 years of eligibility. Anytime I've played here, I've played at a very high level. Right. And I'm better now than how I've been in the past. And so, I'll be ready as long as my number is called. As far as the pressure of going pro, when I look at the grand scheme of what I want in my life, I want to build generational wealth early. I want to go into public service and philanthropy, and I want to do all of that while maintaining my faith. Going pro is a way to generate generational wealth early, but so is the media side that I've been working on, where in the endorsement space, I've become a market leader, and I think with that platform, I'm transitioning over with my experience and expertise into a new field of media, where it's traditional Hollywood production and talent, acting, producing film and TV. That's another way where I can achieve my goals. I think on the banking side and learning how to institutionally invest, where I'm a fellow with the UC, it's been a very eye-opening experience. And I think I was very locked in on venture capital, and there's nothing wrong with venture capital. And I'm learning a lot about that. But I think expanding my range to institutional investing and having a fund of that size and managing that just really gives me great expertise on how to invest even on the micro scale. And then I look at the general brand partnerships and me being able to, generate some wealth for me while I'm still in college. the cool part about that is I've been practicing good money habits, and I've been able to speak to that and help others my age do the same. So I think everything's still on track as far as me achieving that goal, whether it be through football, whether it be through media, whether it be through music production, which I also do, or through banking. I think there's a lot of lanes where I have talent and I'm building expertise in. And I think with that mindset and that growth mindset where if I believe I can achieve, it will happen for me. It's not really up to me. I think I got to also place my faith and my trust in God that he'll order my steps in the way that I'm supposed to get there.
Amen. Yep. Well, before I pass it on to Bria about some research on college athletics and black athletes, I do want to say you mentioned, it just stuck in my mind that you still have 2 years of eligibility. Right. So I'm just thinking about USC. They're just like, y'all get ready for Chase these next 2 years, right? But anyway, to the point, and so Bri, you are doing research on black student athletes and what they do afterwards. And so Chase mentioned some very good points that maybe not a lot of students may have the knowledge or capability of. And so what is some of the things that you see in your research that some students may be experiencing that might be keeping them from that financial and socioeconomic success after they graduate from college?
Yeah, so I think Chase is kind of the model student athlete because he came in with pre-college career influences. I've noticed a lot of athletes, specifically black athletes, don't have people who are behind them who know about the opportunities that they have outside of sport. And so they're unable to kind of develop that academic or other identities outside of athletics. But then also there's a lack of career preparation beyond sport once they get to school. I think that you kind of have to have the navigational capital to be able to immerse yourself into the student body and the campus resources in order to really thrive as a student, separate from athlete, and along with the schedule that student athletes are given, especially revenue-generating sports such as football and basketball. It's kind of hard if you don't have, I guess, that knowledge of what to do or how to leverage your position on campus. But then also like the focus on eligibility, right? Within athletic departments, I think I've heard a lot from student athletes and just seen in the research that when they ask people about career prep, usually it's limited to career fairs within athletic departments. They're not necessarily encouraged to interact with the student body. And so it's easy to kind of get siloed within athletic departments. But like students like Chase who are able to go out and make connections outside of athletics and then bridge that gap are usually able to be more successful once they graduate.
So I did work with student athletes back in the Dusty Baker Center at American River College in Sacramento. And so I do have some understanding of eligibility, but what's yours is some of very unique because I'm pretty sure when you came in, there were some things that happened during COVID which extended your eligibility, right?
So, yeah, everyone who was in athletics during COVID received 1 extra year for that. All the fall sports.
Got it. Yeah. So my question being, so you did get that extra year, but so I would imagine you got your undergraduate degree while you were still playing, correct?
Yes. So I got my undergrad degree in 2021. Yeah. So.
Okay, and then now you're pursuing, well, what did you get your degree in, and then what are you now pursuing?
So my bachelor's degree was over at Luskin in public affairs. It was a great program.
Luskin.
Look, both of y'all are top products of Luskin.
We're here, yeah. The best school on campus.
I agree.
I don't know about that.
I agree.
I mean, we agree on the UCLA thing. I don't know about the...
It's not education, I'll say that.
I wanted to throw in.
The education school is top notch too. I'm getting my master's there.
So he's both identities.
Yeah, I was a public affairs minor, so
oh wow,
I'm a little bit in the Luskin group.
Yep, you're a little outnumbered.
But that's what's up. Shout out, representation matters, right?
Yep, that's what drove me to do it. I had to see more people like myself that experienced those things to change the world. So that was a driving factor for me.
So for those watching, we got 3 right here, right now.
Definitely. So I got my undergrad in public affairs at Luskin, and then now I'm getting a master's in education, which I'll complete this quarter, and then this fall I'll start a master's in legal studies at Griffin.
Wow, 2 masters during the span of your eligibility. So let me just kind of ask you, what motivated you to pursue your M.Ed and then transition into that Master of Legal
MLS.
Studies.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I'm the son of a teacher. It sort of goes back to what Bree was saying about having someone who's supporting you who can also be an example. And I'm blessed to have come from a 2-parent household where both of them are college educated. Both of them went to secondary college education. So both of them have, passed their bachelor's as far as degrees. And it doesn't seem out of the sort for me. It feels normal. I'm a Griffin. I go to school. I get my degree. Even my father, he took us from working class to middle class. Even when we were working class, everyone was educated. I came from a long line of educators, principals, teachers. And to be able to have that in your pride, in your genome, gives you something to reach for. And hopefully being at UCLA, a place where so many people have set the blueprint for others, especially people of color, to be in that similar position, God willing, what I'm doing now will help someone else shine their light better down the line.
So, yeah, I'm noticing that that's a common trend, right? Particularly here at UCLA. Well, I'm first gen, so I was very fortunate, especially to get to this point. And I'm one of 15 kids. Don't ask what the other ones are doing. But so, yeah, like setting the example. For me, I know the experience was very difficult. So it's kind of emotional because at some points you feel the pressure of not wanting to let people down. But then on the other side of that, you feel a sense of pride knowing that you were able to get to this point. But for me particularly, it still kind of takes a toll, right? And I notice sometimes even when you're kind of that outliner within your own community, you get rejected. So how did you cope through a lot of or navigating those systems? I know you have like a very strong like support base, but we're still living a world where there's the expectation of you doing certain things because of who you are. So how did you navigate those touchy subjects?
I think one of the cool parts about being an athlete is, for some reason, there's such a human intrinsic connection to sport. And I think it's a reason why you see a lot of great social progress was foreshadowed maybe a decade or two in the sports. You have Jackie Robinson integrating baseball, 2 decades later, Civil Rights Act. You have so many moments. You have Title IX with Ann Myers Drysdale, who is also a Bruin. And you see a large push in the feminist movement coming 20 years after that. I think sports often foreshadows what is next because it puts it in a way where more or less sports is one of the only places where everything is truly fair. Yeah. And there's rules that apply to everyone the same. And it provides almost a proving grounds for how everybody in that sport and therefore everyone in that society, their lives are better, their quality of life is better when you add diversity. And that's been something that UCLA has always championed. I think as an athlete, there's always been people who have not believed in me, whether it be on the athletic side or just on a person-to-person side. But to be honest, I don't think people who are striving to be successful can concern themselves with people who see success and turn their head away from it. I think often the hardest thing is to look at people around you and honestly say, look, I don't really care if you're not doing the same things as me. The best thing I can do for you is show you why this is successful. And often we think of that as turning our back when really it's just opening a lane that wasn't there before. And, luckily there have been folks who have really taken up that cross. I think of Ed O'Bannon, UCLA great, a Naismith Player of the Year, a national champ, and he was ostracized by the entire country. In fact, there was a hashtag F Ed O'Bannon on Twitter after he came out against the NCAA because they were using his likeness. Yeah. And 15 years later, he wins a court case, and he's the lead plaintiff in the court case that is really the first domino on the way to revenue share. And now we have to give him his flowers. that sort of goes to what you were saying, where no matter what, if you're striving to do something different, striving to make progress, there's going to be people who either don't believe in that or are going to say you're wrong or are going to hate on you. At the end of the day, if you're doing it for them, you won't achieve the success that you want. And to be able to keep the main thing, and have conviction, at the end of the day, the same people that were doubting you, that were antagonistic toward you, will be the ones reaping the blessings of your work, and they'll have to thank you.
For sure. So I'm hearing a lot of politician in you right now.
He speaks like very calm.
Yeah, like trying to win everybody over.
But yeah, speaking of being selective in terms of who you open and close yourself off to, I'm pretty sure you experience and navigate those same dynamics when you're talking about your deals, your partnerships, especially when it comes to NIL. So maybe for those athletes who are on the verge of being the image and likeness of their institution, maybe some advice you would give to them in terms of how you would navigate and filter out people who would want to work with you.
Absolutely. There's been deals I've said no to, but for me, it comes down to values. So I create a values playbook that puts really intangible terms how I go about everything. And so I look at a brand's personal values. My personal values, I consider myself a believer, a winner, and a provider. I look for brands that mirror those similar values. Then I go into economic value. If I like the brand's personal values, okay, let's look at the numbers. Is it on par with my market price? If it is, all right, let's keep going. If it's not, either I'll ask or I'll look for something else in the contract that makes up for that. And then third is community value. How do I turn that partnership with that brand and the economic value generated from that deal into community value? And so I'm a Christian. 10% is the tithe that I give to the LA Food Bank. So
yep, I did read that.
So already, thank you. So already, I think we're above 100,000 meals for the LAUSD food program.
Thanks for doing that on behalf of the community.
Yeah, I kind of want to know who you rejected.
Oh, I mean,
they try to get you in trouble.
I'm not going to name names, and some of them have been fine brands. It really comes down to one, two things. Either the brand doesn't really align with my personal values, even if they're a well-run brand, and we're just two ships passing in the night. Like it's not really any beef there. I politely decline. And then if the economic value isn't there, then I'll let them know. If it's within their capability to either boost a dollar amount or to offer something else, then that's great. And if not, then, we just carry on. I think being able to conduct yourself in a way that's polite and professional, whether you actually do the deal or not, is appreciated by brands who are well run.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of professionalism, so that's one of the things I always, it kind of bothers me, especially when you work in government spaces, right? You get the notion of the angry black woman if you speak up for yourself, or the mad black man that is temperamental. I guess this is a question for you, Bree. How do you navigate those systems, especially within the sports world? How do you manage those things?
I mean, similar to Chase, I just try to be as polite and even-tempered as possible. I mean, in professional settings, I feel like there's always going to be people who push your buttons or maybe have different opinions than you do. But at the end of the day, I also have a support system that I lean back on or I reach out to when I'm feeling frustrated. So when I'm in these situations, I just try to handle them as best as possible, and then if I need to vent later, then I do that with my close friends or people that I trust. So
good.
So as somebody who, as for myself, as somebody who's been in student affairs, it's always great to see your own students, blossom, especially for someone like Chase to just blossom into this very great human being, right? Mm-hmm. And so as somebody who's worked with Chase over the years, how does it feel to just see your pupil just become this person that you see right in front of you right now?
I mean, it feels good. I worked with him for a few months, and I knew right away that he came in with a plan. So to be able to see him execute it over time has been really nice, especially at his age. And then being a student athlete, I feel like you don't see this as often as I would like to see it. So I think it's really great to have Chase as a role model for other student athletes that are coming up. We actually did a panel through the Center for Athletes' Rights and Equity at UCR that my advisor runs, and we spoke about NIL. There were some athletes from other schools who were not in revenue-generating sports. And I think that Chase has been able to leverage his platform in a really good way. I think a lot of people think about NIL and they think of, I guess, the household names or the people that you see starting for Alabama or the big football schools that are on TV every Sunday. But you can use NIL and leverage your platform in other ways, and I think Chase has done really well with that. And so it's really good to have him speak about that and just kind of pave the way for athletes coming up.
And I guess this is a question for both of you. And we'll start with you, Bri, again. And so you mentioned that there's some students that aren't in like revenue-generating sports or don't have the luxury of an NIL deal. So how would they navigate that if they were to move forward from going pro after college?
What do you mean? Can you rephrase the question? I'm sorry.
I guess if they don't have that type of financial backing and they're having to look for a job and not have, being able to go pro after college, what kind of advice would you give to them based on the research and your own personal knowledge with that?
Yeah, I think just talking to student athletes, it's all very new, but some of them didn't really realize how they could use their identity as a student athlete, even in a non-revenue generating sports, to get deals or maybe even put on camps like in their community. Yeah. Things like that. And so I think as time goes on, they'll be able to get those deals that maybe they thought that they weren't able to get, and then be able to make money in college, which could set them up for careers post-graduate. But I also think that a lot of students who are in non-revenue generating sports realize that they probably won't be able to go pro and make a certain amount of money. So being able to be involved on their campus and engaging activities or trying to get an internship if possible, or even making connections with students and professors can go a long way to figuring out where their career can go outside of sport once they graduate.
Nice. And then Chase?
I think there's really a link between what athletes who are going to end up going pro and athletes who are not need to hear, and that is whether you play 0 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you're going to have to get another job. And to be able to utilize what you're already doing in building a skill set of discipline, waking up at the same time, being on time to all your meetings, being able to sit through meetings, being able to go out to the field, keeping your body right, keeping your mental right. These are all real discipline that athletes often take to granted that they themselves have. And it's a reason why athletes, when they get to the corporate world, the ones who have their mind on right, do take it by storm. I remember living in Dykstra, and there was one time we have communal bathrooms, and I walked down the hallway, and it was like 2 a.m. We had already been asleep for 4 hours. And we walked down the hallway, and everyone else on the floor is having karaoke night, and there's school tomorrow. It's like 2 a.m. And that's when I really realized that athletes do live a different lifestyle than a lot of other folks. And for the athletes that recognize this and understand what it's like to be in a team and have cooperation and be able to overcome struggles, both mentally but also physically, I think the athletes who put those skills to use and build a network while they're still in college end up reaping the blessings of that.
So you did say mental. I thought I'd chime in there. I have some mental health issues, so I'm good with that. So I guess that would be a really good question I would want to know is, like, how did you, have you ever, doubted yourself? And in that space, how did you overcome it? And then also, with all of the pressure, does it create some doubt in general?
I think it happens all the time. You get, especially at schools like this where they get highly touted recruits, there's a lot of players who were the man at their high school, the man in their town, the man in their entire city, the man in their state, some of these players. And then they get there and they don't play their entire freshman year. And it's the first time they haven't played in a game since they were 6 years old.
Yeah.
And sometimes taking a loss or it not going the way you wanted in one facet makes you feel like everything's going bad. And then you stop going to class, or you stop doing well on your papers, or you stop calling home as much because you don't want to tell them, look, I'm probably not playing this week. These are all things where sometimes athletes close themselves off, and it almost becomes a vicious cycle where you feel worse, you don't get help, and then you don't get help, and then you feel even worse.
Yeah.
For me, my main battery pack has always been my faith and my family. And so after that freshman year where I wasn't playing, I was coming off a broken wrist, I had hurt my hamstring. It was just a lot of things happening around where I did feel down. And it was my first time away from college. It's supposed to be the best time of your life. And it wasn't going exactly how I pictured it in my head when I committed to UCLA, the school of my dreams. And to be able to come home, especially, during COVID for an extended time period and really think about what I wanted, spend time with my sister and little brother, these were things that brought me back to center. And I think when I got back to campus and ever since then, I've sort of been on a tear where every opportunity I have, I feel energized and I feel like I know myself and feel a sense of self. And I think that's important for athletes to find, where they find an identity of themselves that goes far beyond their sport. Because at the end of the day, you can't play that sport forever. And that's something that happens to athletes when they first get out of college and they can't play their sport, or even if they go pro and have an amazing pro career and they're 40 years old and they feel like their life is over when it's really just beginning. It's important to have an identity that you can rely upon, that's tangible, that's real. That way you have something that's really your rock in your life.
Awesome.
Oh, we got to know Chase as the football player, the amazing student, and now you're pursuing your master's of legal studies, and you're also doing music on the side, right? So let us talk about that, and maybe give a shout out to some people about the work that you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier, I grew up playing the violin, and I've always been someone who's really loved music. I remember even if a song comes on at the end of the movie when I was, 5 or 6, and my sister would be there dancing the whole credits. And it's been something where I genuinely love it. And if, say I only had to pick a couple things to do, and I could do that regardless of money or anything like that, music would definitely be in that box. And over the course of college, I've been able to progress at it. I've built some really good relationships. Shout out Taz Taylor at Internet Money. Shout out Spencer Radiate, who's a student here. Actually, the guy who's manning the camera. I did a session with him. Shout out James. It's a good community, and especially on the production side, a lot of those folks, they are still in school as well. So there's sort of synergies there. But for me, it's a time where it's my creative outlet. And a lot of times I am always working, where I would be doing, 40, 50 hours at the facility, 20 hours in school, however many hours with NIL. The music is, that 5 to 10 hours a week where it's just for me for now. I'm about to start getting more into the artist world. But it's a place where I just get to have a creative outlet. And I think it's important for everyone who is pushing themselves as far as a workload to have something that they can fall back on, where they can just get out their creative thoughts.
So are you doing like rapping, writing,
so
beats?
I think eventually I'll get into writing, but right now beats. So melody loops and then beats.
Who's artists or producers, I would say, that inspire you? What would you say is your style?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of styles. I really like Metro Boomin just because he's built a huge name for himself and is to the point where he's one of those super producers, which is becoming more and more rare in this era. The age of the Timbalands is dying.
Oh, man. And then you looked at me. When
No.
I know I'm old, dog. I got you.
I would do a song with Timbaland right now if I could.
Shit, me too.
But so I think Metro Boomin is someone who has a wide range of musicality, and growing up playing classical, that's sort of how I hear things. But I love rap music, and to be able to do that, and I think now I'm getting into the alternative rock wave that's sort of going around the hip hop community. So stay tuned on that. A lot of exciting stuff to come out of that. I'm about to start working with some good artists.
All right, that's good. And then one final shout that I want to make. Shout out to your barber for lining you
No,
up.
I
That is the
appreciate it.
freshest lineup ever.
I appreciate it. No, my barber is top tier every time. I got a gatekeep on this one.
Okay, no shout outs on that one. We can shout out the other. No shout out on the barber.
If you want the IG after, just let me know.
I want to know the price.
he be waiting at the barbershop for a minute, so he might need somebody.
No, I got one. I mean, I love mine. It's just like.
Okay, they might be watching, so yeah,
really,
you're good with your
really
barber.
Busy,
you don't want to give him that part by accident, right?
Wow. Yeah.
I did want to make a comment. I thought that hearing Chase being able to balance such a heavy schedule, so 40 to 50 hours a week in sport, music, and NIL, and everything else that he does, it just makes me think about how talented student athletes are, but how a lot of times, unless they have like certain resolve or ideals that Chase have, they might feel like they don't have enough time to pursue these other things and showcase their talents outside of sport. So I'm a big proponent of trying to cut down the athletic load. I know the requirement is 20 hours per week, but then there's the non-mandatory sessions that are mandatory. Yeah, exactly. And so if there was a perfect world where student athletes did get to stick to that 20 hours, I think we would be able to see a lot more athletes developing these other identities and being able to really take advantage of their careers at the universities that they're at.
And the good thing is we all did public policy, so
You can change the policies in the higher ed space.
That's where we could start.
Better get to lobbying.
I mean, no, that's a really good thing. Like I never even thought about that, because I'm not in the athletic world. I'm tall for nothing, so it's all good. I learned that pretty early on. I was going to share. I tried football. I got a concussion on my first play, and that was the end of it. So yeah, I guess so. Bree, what's next for you? You're going to be graduating not too long from now, and I know you're continuing the research.
Dr. Savage.
Yeah. So, what's after your doctoral?
Yeah, so hopefully I'll be done in about a year and a half, give or take. But I do want to become a professor in a school of education, hopefully in California, fingers crossed, specifically Southern California, because I'm an LA person through and through. But eventually, maybe starting a nonprofit. I don't want to give too many details, but being able to work with student athletes and help them develop their identities so that we can have more athletes that are similar to Chase and, taking advantage of the opportunities that they have.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see you two teaming up writing a book. I mean, you definitely have, like, the blueprint, right? You've tried and tested everything, and so now, you guys can share that knowledge. That's what I'm saying. I want 10% royalty. Like I said,
Give me one. I'm good with one.
Yeah, let's get it done. Yeah. I'll sign something. Yeah. Nah.
And I guess last thoughts and maybe any other advice you might give to the student athletes watching this, particularly of the students of color.
I'd say there is power in imitation. So find someone who's done what you want at a very high level, and maybe even reach out to them. You never know. Especially at a place like UCLA, there's probably someone who's an alum who's done exactly what you're trying to do. And to be able to have that door open for you, I think is what makes coming to a place like UCLA special. And so reaching out to those who can help you and not being shameful about it. As a student, there's no shame in not knowing something. The only shame is knowing something and not doing something about that. Mm-hmm. And I think being fearless, being curious, and tapping into the network that's around you. Obviously, there are a number of habits that have allowed you to get to college. And I think keeping those same habits and realizing that's what makes you special is what will carry you, rather than getting caught in the rat race of whatever cool is or whatever is happening that night on a college campus.
Word up.
Well, there you have it. That concludes episode, I don't know what number, 15, 16, 17,
The
but
best one.
the best one.
That is right.
There might be you might come across a couple Chase Griffins on Instagram, but it's the one with the blue check mark. I verified it's him.
Yeah, we better watch out for
Better watch
Twitter,
out.
though. I don't have my Twitter check mark anymore.
You didn't pay that $15 a month, huh?
I'm not paying
It's
that.
like getting your light bill cut off. But yes, we gave enough of y'all free game, so make sure to follow and subscribe. And there's more to come from Bree and the future Dr. Bree and the Chase Griffin. So, what are some expectations for this coming football season?
I mean, there's no reason. As a quarterback, I think we should win every game. You know.
Oh, I want to know who you think's going to win the Super Bowl. Predictions.
I'm going for the Saints. That's my team.
There we go.
Who are you going for?
Of course, the Rams.
Rams.
Rams?
Come on now.
Wait, did we start the season yet?
No.
Oh, so, okay. I'm going to just say the Niners because I'm from the Bay.
Oh.
So, yeah, there's going to be some tension here. So, before we get to the tension, let's cut the tension in the episode right here. Make sure to follow and subscribe, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Oh, wait. No, but
Wait, what?
Lakers.
What?
Lakers?
Lakers gonna win it.
Lakers.
Yeah, Lakers
Yeah.
gonna win it. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that was. Oh my God,
I'm
that
ready.
was like.
He wanted to cut it before we
I
started
know,
talking about the
Lakers.
Warriors.
Look, my heart dropped when we lost that game. Oh my God, but
I'm telling you, I
It's-
saw LeBron jump
we
over
coming up
some
from
people.
3-1.
The GOAT.
Yeah, he jumped over people and then ran into the crowd and came back and still scored.
We coming back from
that's what I'm
3-1,
saying.
and
That's what
then
I'm
if it doesn't happen, you're not gonna
It
hear
ain't
from me
gonna
about
happen,
that.
doggy.
We
It
gonna
ain't
we
gonna
gonna keep it
happen.
pushing,
We
just
must
like
not
what
be
Chase
hearing
and Bree
from
was
you.
saying. You gotta keep pushing, and you gotta select who you listen to and not. So you know, I got some
Lakers are
people-
gonna push you out, doggy. That's all I'm saying. They gonna
Well,
push.
you ain't the one playing, and I'm not either. So we'll see. But anyway, peace, y'all. Thank you
Peace.
again, Bree and
y'all so
Chase, for
much.
coming.
Thank
And
you,
you know,
thank you,
thanks
thank
as
you.
always, Elliot, for being my right hand man. And shout out to Dr. Brandon Harris for his birthday and for his newborn, being a super dad out there. We didn't forget about you. We hope to see you soon, brother.
Peace.
All right.